Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode here on the Wandering Scribe's Book of the Month. Now, in today's episode, we dive deep into the world of Scott Harper's ultimate Anton the Undying. And, as little background for this story, Rome has fallen, but its greatest warrior still fights. Enter the world of Anton the Undying, a Roman gladiator turned into a vampire upon his death. Now Anton fights for Bregit, the woman who turned him and ruler of the supernatural world. As Bregit's enforcer, Anton seeks to keep the supernatural world in check so his kind and humans can coexist peacefully. But not everyone sees things as Bregit does. Anton is constantly challenged not only by supernatural schemes, but also by his own bloodlust. The longer he lives, can Anton the Undying retain some of his dwindling humanity? The Ultimate Anton the Undying Collection is a treasure trove containing revised and expanded editions of The Name of Fear and A Cleansing of the Blood, two all-new Anton novellas, and 12 original short stories. Follow Anton from the blood-stained sands of Rome to ancient battles with unstoppable beasts in the deepest depths of tenebrous jungles and into a dystopian future where even vampires fear to tread. Each story is a unique journey, offering a different perspective on Anton's world. So without further ado, let us dive right in. Prologue. Fate whispers to the warrior, "You cannot withstand the storm." The warrior whispers back, "I am the storm." Capua, Rome, 73 BC. The crowd stood and roared his name at the top of their lungs as the champion moved with the savage grace of a jungle lion, dismembering his opponents in a spray of gore. The hot Roman sun beat down on his chest, sending rituals of sweat dripping down his forehead. His cut, muscular body gleamed in the sun, bright light reflecting off the leather cuirass that shielded his thick chest, and twin gladiator short swords that he wielded with deadly precision. Waves of undulating heat rose from the white sands of the arena as he stalked his prey. Though outnumbered 10-1, the champion moved without hesitation or fear. He parried a sword thrust and shoved the attacker back, then planted his sandaled foot directly into the man's naked sternum and was rewarded with the familiar sound of breaking bone. As the other gladiator collapsed to his knees, the champion crushed his head with the pommel of his sword. The crowd bellowed their approval, their bloodlust incited the champion's savagery, untethered ferocity surging through his veins. He came to a sudden epiphany. This bloodshed is who I am and what I was born for. He bladed his body and avoided a fascina thrown like a spear at him, the three-pronged trident plowing into the sands behind him. He did not give the man time to recover. Thrusting his sword into the gladiator's throat and pulling them abruptly sideways, the man's head separated from his body and blood fountained from the stump of his neck. The gory spray covered the champion's face in crimson. He licked his lips, savoring the hot vitae. A wiring opponent leaped toward him, a curved blade raised high for a killing blow. The champion seized the gladiator by the arm and slammed him into the ground. He followed up with a stomp of the neck, breaking the man's spine. The champion appeared unstoppable as the crowd heralded his victories with strident cries for more carnage. Yet for each opponent he slew, another took advantage of his distraction and struck, delivering telling blows. By the time he severed the last opponent's head, the champion bled from a dozen deep wounds. He staggered, ice crawling through his depleted veins and arteries, and fell to his knees. Stars filled his vision. As he lost consciousness, he beheld the field of butchered corpses he had created, a bloody offering for the chanting spectators. The crimson ocean beckoned him, calling his name with a far greater passion than any Roman crowd. He collapsed to the ground and let the ocean take him. The champion looked up into the arched ceiling, his vision marred by blurriness and bright stars. A wrinkled, craggy face gazed down upon him, the wiry brows stitched in concern. "His wounds are mortal, Dominus Batius. I cannot save him this time. Why would you have your greatest champion face so many opponents at once?" the old man questioned. Gladiator tried to move his heavily scarred body, but the action triggered agony throughout his frame. He sensed he was lying on a stone table inside the ludus owned by his dominus, the Lanista Batius. The air was chill on his naked flesh. He wore only a canvas loincloth. "Because he is the best, Medicus," a familiar voice remarked. "And because I ordered it." A dignified man with short brown hair and gray temples, wearing a bright purple toga, entered the gladiator's perspective. 10 against 1, and yet somehow still survived, the Titus proclaimed, "the greatest warrior this world has ever known, plucked from the obscurity of war, chosen and trained by me to do the greater glory of the house of Bytus. He is the bringer of rain, the Thracian rebel king. He lives on suffering of blood, just like the Vicolacus of legend, and like the Vicolacus, his lust can never be sated. It is sated for now, Dominus. He shall not rise from his bed," the medicus intoned. "Then I have no further use for him. See that he is buried promptly before he stinks. I'll create a statue to honor his memory and display it in the villa. Crixus will take his place as the champion of Capua." But Titus looked down at the gladiator's glassy eyes. "Godspeed, champion. You have served your purpose and made sacred the sand your blood was spilled upon." The men departed as the sun waned in the west. The champion felt his veins fill with ice as his blood poured out and pooled out onto the table. The air was heavy with the fetid stench of spoiled meat and death as shadows filled the room. He felt the temperature in the room abruptly drop suddenly. One shadow detached itself from the brick wall, creeping slowly along the floor before coalescing in the form of a woman of stunning beauty. Her expensive scarlet linen tunic clung snugly to her and contrasted sharply with her luminescent skin. She spoke, her voice soft and comforting. "Your victory in the arena today was truly spectacular. I have lived for centuries, gladiator, yet never have I seen your equal in battle. And though you are a seasoned warrior, you are still young in human years." Shining red hair framed her symmetrical features and high cheekbones. She took his head in one hand and raised him effortlessly to her bosom, her touch sending shockwaves of delight through his system. He looked up into her radiant emerald eyes and lost himself in their brilliance. "Yet your victory was not without great cost. You stand at death's door, waiting for Pluto to take you. Would you come with me, gladiator, and be my lover instead? I can give you a long life, with strength and passion greater than you have ever known." The gladiator felt his heart quiver, his body beginning to fail from blood loss. He had never beheld such unearthly beauty before. He tried to speak, but his throat was dry and his chapped lips stuck together. He wanted to live and be with her, an intense fire surging in his dying frame. Without uttering a word, he nodded his head. She smiled, revealing long, sharp teeth. Vicolacus, he thought, the legends of the living dead who fed on the blood of the living were true. The vampires let her dress fall from her shoulders, revealing her abundant cleavage. She then placed his face to her like a newborn babe, and then let her head fall back in ecstasy as he began to feed. She ran her long black fingers across the top of her bosom, allowing her black blood to trickle down into his mouth. He sucked in the cold liquid, moving his head higher for a better position. The woman's blood was sweet and intoxicating. The gladiator felt it wash down his throat and spread throughout his body. When he could drink no more, he moved away. The Vicolacus lifted him off the table as if he were a child. "Come with me, my night king. I am Brigantia, and I would have you at my villa when you turn. She walked outside onto the blood-stained sands where he had practiced his warrior craft for endless hours under the watchful eyes of the doctor, and took him into the night sky. They rose into the heavens together, the stars so bright they burned his eyes. He felt his lungs cease to rise and fall, his heart sputtering to a stop. Then dark oblivion rose and claimed him. He rose 3 nights later in a grotesque parody of birth, his powerful arms casting aside dirt and stone as he dug himself out of a newly formed grave. He discovered that he no longer needed to breathe, and as he stood, dust and insects fell from his body and loincloth. He staggered briefly as his dead muscles flared into action. Brigantia was there waiting for him, now wearing a black tunic. "You have been reborn. Look at yourself. You are magnificent," she said to him. The champion inspected his body and was shocked to note that his skin was now immaculate and unmarred, with no signs of the many battle scars he had accumulated over the years. A burning hunger thundered through his veins, greater than he had ever known, and requiring satisfaction. The red thirst must be satisfied, or your body will wither and desiccate. A fate far worse than death, she said, appearing to have read mine. She then raised a small hand in front of her. "We can transform," she observed, and instantly she began to turn into a demonic, bestial form. Her nose flattened, her teeth grew sharper and longer, her tunic morphed into greater bat wings, and her once beautiful hands turned into a furrowed claw. She had become a gigantic bat creature. The gladiator felt his form shift and morph to mimic that of Brigantia's. They soon rose into the night sky together, twin demons of nightmare appearance, and headed north toward the wilds of Germania. The gladiator marveled at their speed, exhilarating overtaking him as they flew hundreds of feet above the majestic forest canopy. Eventually, their hunt came to an end, as they spied a barbarian encampment on the outskirts of a black forest. The hunters were roasting a spitted boar over an open fire, the orange flames a beacon in the night, alighting on the upper branches of a nearby tree. The vampires watched as the painted man ate, drank, and traded stories in a foreign tongue, celebrating a successful hunt. He inhaled the night air, a heavy mix of smoke, sweat, and burnt animal flesh assailing his newly enhanced senses. Beside him, Brigantia resumed her human form and began to speak. "It is appropriate that the first blood you draw come from a warrior. Our earliest meals largely determines our disposition. I slew a Celtic druid when I first rose to this life and developed an aptitude for magic. Now, gladiator, follow my lead. Let the primal instincts inside you come to the fore." She dropped 100 feet to the ground, landing inside the circle of hunters. The men yelled in shock as they stopped and drew their weapons. A large brute with long braided hair raised a giant axe over his head, bringing it down on Brigantia's head. But she moved slightly at the very last moment, pivoting so the thick blade buried itself in her shoulder. Ignoring the bloodless wound, she slapped the man down like a child, the ugly sound of breaking bone echoing through the forest. The gladiator shed his bat form and leaped from the tree. He landed next to the fallen warrior and bit his throat, gulping down the pulsing blood and feeling it flood his body with strength and warmth. His eyes, like those of a snake, went into the back of his head as euphoria threatened to overtake him. The sensation of icy pricks in his back brought the gladiator out of his blood haze. He felt a cold sliver lodge near his spine. Reaching around with his sharp, nailed fingers, he grasped the hilt of the dagger and withdrew it from a bloodless wound. He turned to face the attacker. The man was tall and lean, with wiry muscles and a shaved, tattooed head. The barbarian roared, and they attacked with a second dagger. The champion felt the blade penetrate his neck and graze his spine, but caused no pain. He stretched out a single clawed hand and wrapped around long fingers around the barbarian's throat, shutting off his windpipe and preventing him from screaming. The gladiator lifted the man into the air with effortless ease. His thirst momentarily sated, the gladiator brought his fingers together, crushing the barbarian's throat with a satisfying crunch. He felt the hot blood spray upon his face, cool skin, and lapped it with his tongue before he cast the twitching corpse aside. The gladiator looked for Brigantia amidst the chaos, his keen eyes penetrating the darkness. He found her feeding on the throat of another barbarian, her embrace lifting the smaller man off his feet. His sword had pierced her torso and stuck out from her back, but did not inconvenience her. She dropped the corpse when she had finished. Her fangs had severed the spine, and the warrior lay dead on the ground at an unnatural angle. "If you would be so kind," she said, indicating the sword protruding from her chest. He quickly removed it, hearing the metal scrape on the bone of her sternum. Brigantia did not appear the least bit disconcerted. Then she spoke to him, bright crimson dripping from her lips. "As you can see, my Night King, we are virtually omnipotent at night. Our strength is overwhelming, and the weapons cannot hurt us." It was here that Brigantia explained to the barbarian, the gladiator, what they truly were. Their forms are mutatable, allowing them to slip through the smallest of openings or grow in size, allowing them to take on any form of any creature of the night, be it of the skies or on the ground. They could fly or ride as dust clouds on the silver rays of the moonlight and bring those long deceased back from the dead and obey their commands. But perhaps, as we began to explain to him, their greatest strength resides in the fact that few believe in their existence and are unaware of the price they pay for their immortality. Yet their powers cease with the coming day. In sunlight, the wounds they incurred earlier would have immobilized and left them vulnerable to the prescribed methods that may destroy them. How can we be destroyed? I don't see how that is possible. The gladiator probed as a sense of invulnerability boosted his ego. A sharp stake of wood or bone driven deep into the heart will paralyze our bodies, allowing the hunter to administer a decapitation. Thus, then burning the bodies and dispensing the ashes in running water will assure the death is true and final. Running water, he questioned. We who live beyond death are unnatural, and while reality warps around us, natural elements weaken death magic that powers us. You would do well to avoid the proximity of bodies of water and oceans whenever possible. And what of these men? Gesturing to the ruptured corpses on the ground. Will they return to life as I do? No, these brutes are truly dead. Only repeated feedings or a ceremonial change of blood will create another one like us. The gladiator then felt his body swelling with the energy of his first kill, his hands shaking with surging powers of his victim's blood pulsing through his veins. And it was here that Brigantia and the gladiator found themselves enthralled with each other. Fueled by primal lust, he embraced her, kissing her bloody lips with a fiery passion. They then spent the night in deep euphoria. Her hands massaged his chest and teased him, spurring him on. And when he finally reached his limit, he roared in exhilaration, the cry frightening the crows in the forest and sending them shrieking to the air. Brigantia moaned her satisfaction, and the gladiator kissed her again, smothering her mouth with his. She returned his passion, her sharp eye-teeth tearing into his, mixing their blood. He lay on her for another hour, spent and exhausted, until she roused him to return to her villa before sunrise. His death sleep was troubled that day, haunted by visions of vengeance. Something had to be done first. The champion entered the villa in a mist form through an open window of Matthias's bedroom, high above the ludus, resolving from the darkness of night. Leonista slept in a bed of plush vermilion, covered with one of his women servants. He walked to the side of her bed and looked at the wooden nightstand set against the cement wall. The gladiator's twin gladiator swords, his signature weapons in the arena, rested on top. He moved to the side of the table where the servant girl lay, her naked bosom rising and falling with her breasts. The gladiator moved his mouth to her neck, inhaling the sweet fragrance of her brown skin, and bit gently. The girl died quietly in her sleep as he supped deep. Batista woke. The gladiator raised his bloody mouth from the dead girl's neck, smiling as blood dribbled down his chin. Horrified by what he saw, Matthias stumbled naked out of bed and leaned against the nightstand, his doughy frame trembling. "What in Hades," he muttered as he grabbed the swords and held them close to him for protection. "Don't you not recognize me, Matthias? You are the one who named me," the gladiator accused. "Spa, that is not my name," the gladiator sneered, cutting Matthias off. "My true name was taken from me when you Romans invaded Thrace and took me prisoner. You made me watch as he raped and murdered my wife. She called my name repeatedly, but I was helpless to aid her. They pillaged the village and sold me into slavery. I was made to butcher other men on the sands of arenas to titillate and mollify the mobs. But now I have been reborn. I am strong and will no longer play the part of fate's puppet." "But you are dead," Matthias sniveled, his eyes wide in disbelief. "No man could survive such wounds." "Indeed, I am dead," the gladiator intoned as he approached his former dominus. Matthias was a lanista, an order of gladiators who had witnessed countless training sessions on the sands of his estate, and was proficient in braided weapons. He buried the swords deep into the gladiator's chest, piercing both lungs. But instead, the gladiator casually removed the bloodless swords and twirled them around expertly. The lanista was shocked that he had not cried out, or had fallen to the ground. "I suppose I should thank you for molding me into the engine of destruction that I am now. As you can see, I've recently added a new wrinkle as well," the vampire said, showing his bloody fangs. Matthias raised his hands as supplication. "I beg of you, don't kill me. As you said, it was I who molded you. It was I who made you great." The gladiator ignored Lanisa's pleas for mercy. "I'm glad to have these back," he said, looking at his swords. Then with a brilliant, brutal economy of movements, the vampire thrust one sword through Matthias's chest, while simultaneously beheading the Lanista with the other. As blood pumped out of the neck stump, the gladiator raised his headless body over his head and let the blood shower him. He gulped at the hot flow, feeling his body flood with energy. "His death will draw attention," a female voice said stoically. Brigantia resolved herself in the shadows. "I have only just begun," the blood-soaked gladiator said, his face bathed in red gore. Tossing the Lanista's body aside like a child's plaything, he moved with inhuman speed, leaving the room. He silently darted from shadow to shadow as he ascended the stairs, passing robust and well-endowed busts of former champions of the House of Matthias, and made his way to the gladiator barracks. Brigantia followed him. The gladiator stood before a thick wooden door with a square opening for a view at the top. Inside, a dark-skinned, thickly built man lay resting on a grimy cot. Ragged battle scars crisscrossed his body. He roused at the gladiator's presence and stood, looking at the bloody phantom outside his cell. "What madness is this?" the man asked, wiping the sleep from his eyes. "Crix is my brother. I have come to free you and the others," Gladiator said. "I was told you died in the arena, Thracian. You must be a ghost." "Who have you killed tonight, ghost?" Crix inquired calmly. He lived in a world of death and was not easily flustered by the sight of blood. "Yes, I suppose I am a ghost of sorts, but I am a ghost consumed with the need of vengeance upon those who have wronged me. The cruel Matthias, the first Roman to fall, lies dead above. I would have retribution from the Romans for what they have done to us. Will you join me? I would have my fill of freedom in Roman blood. I would see Rome burn, even if it means joining the dead man." Phrixus replied, "So be it. Unleash hell to a degree, the heavens must rain to wash all the blood away." The gladiator grasped the heavy door by the handle, effortlessly ripping off the hinges. As Crixus stepped in the hallway, a Roman guard rounded the corner and shouted, raising his sword. The newly freed man expertly relieved the guard of his sword. "See to the others," the champion directed as the guard collapsed, and with it the barracks echoed with whoops and cries of joy. Revolution had begun. And with that, viewers and listeners, we will stop here. This is an excellent read. Scott Harper has done a beautiful job of combining history with vampire lore. It's great for the Gothic fans. It is a perfect and talented story. I have nothing but great praise for this. This is an easy 5 out of 5. I will link it down below and make sure to check out Scott's interview to learn more about him. And until next time, we'll see you.